Welcome back to your channel, The Tuition Center. Stay home, be safe, and be healthy. Today, in this chapter, we would be learning about different type of transactions which are available by default in After Effects. To start, let's create our composition and let's create one solid layer. As I always say, after doing any step, you must save your project. So let's create the project by the name of transaction. Yeah. So now we have a solid layer on a timeline, plus there is a composition in which that particular layer is. So After Effects offers different type of transaction effects. To apply, you can go on effect and go on transactions. So in the transaction effects, you can see different type of sub effects which are block dissolve, card wipe, glass wipe, grid wipe, image wipe, jaw, light wipe, line swap, radial scale wipe, twister, warp-o-matic, gradient wipe, iris wipe, linear wipe, radial wipe, Venetian blind, and so on. So there are different type of transaction effects. We will go. We will use different type of effects one by one. So to do that, let's click on first effect, which is known as block effect. So when you click on block effect and you change different type of parameters, you can see the changes on your screen. So like you can disappear. So transactions are basically things which takes you from one scene to another scene or from one shot to another shot. So first thing in block effect, you can see transaction completion, which defines how would it disappear. Next of the parameters are to support it. So for example, there is block weight. So by decreasing or increasing block weight, you can increase the width of the transaction. Same way, you can increase or decrease the block height. Plus you can also play with feather. So for example, now if we have set our block height to around 166 and block width to around 231, and then if we play with the transaction competition, you can see it's like disappearing from 100 to 0. So what happen if we make keys? So let's make key of transaction and let's go to 0.1 and make it 100. So now you can see that the transaction which is on the screen, it starts from 0 and it goes to 100, and that particular layer gets disappear. Now what actually is the use of transactions? So for example, if there is one another solid layer beneath this particular layer on which we have applied the transaction, let's change the color so that we can see what is it actually doing. So let's make it purple. Yeah. So when we come to point 0 and we play our timeline, so you can see that the top layer get vanish slowly and slowly because we have applied the effect on the top layer, and your layer which is beneath your top layer is visible and the top layer get vanished. So this is basically the purpose of any particular type of transaction which you apply to layer or footage or still images. Plus here you can see different type of options, so that also you can play with. So let's see, now it's like lines and then it's going. So it's like it looks like a curtain, and then the curtain is disappearing. And in the same effect, you can also play with the masking if you need some curtain type effect to it. So that's the block. Now let's go to our second effect. Let's go to effect again, and let's go to transaction card wipe. Let's do it 0. Now this is the movement which card wipes do basically. So in card wipe, you need to know in which axis do you need your transaction to be. So like if you see, so now your white color is changing into the bottom layer, which is purple layer. So let's see. So now there are different type of options which are available in your card wipe. First, say the transaction width, back layer. So back layer is basically in how do you want your, or which layer do you want your transaction to happen. So for example, if you select this particular layer, which is your pale purple solid layer, then nothing will happen. It will look like there is a rotation of the card and the same layer gets appeared again. But when you click on medium purple layer solid, which is your bottom layer, and you play with the transaction, so you can see that the white layer is getting vanished and your purple layer is being created. Then comes the source. So do you need source, mask, or any particular type of effect? Then how do you want your things to happen? Do you want your blocks to go individually, or what type of transaction do you need? Then comes the row. How many rows do you need in your blocks to happen? So for example, if we take one row, so what will happen? It will look like rotating and then coming to purple. So you can increase or decrease X number of rows that you want in your layer to be. Then the card scale. So through this you can scale the size. Let's reduce the transaction width little bit, and let's reduce the row. So this is the width. So you scale card scale. So you're increasing the length and width of the card. Now, in which axis do you want your transaction to be? Do you want it in X axis, Y axis, or anything? So if we click on Y axis, so it will come. So it's like this. So in the same way, if we do it random, so you can see that both type of things are being done right now. Then how do you want your flip direction? Do you want it negative, positive, or do you want it random? Accordingly you can set your setting. Plus, how do you need the order? Left to right, right to left, top to bottom, bottom to top, top left to bottom right, or any type of or any side which you want. So if we click on top left, so it will come from top left and then it will go to bottom right. In the same way, if we click on bottom right, it will start from bottom right and then it will go to top left, and so on. So you can also see the gradient. How do you want the gradient? Then the random timing, if you want the random timing, you can also do that. Let's do it 0. What's the speed do you want? So accordingly it can set the speed of the transaction as well. Camera positioning, camera pin, it all depends on you. How do you want it? Accordingly it can show you the effect. So it looks like 3D effect right now if you see. So now if we do it 0, so you can see. Yeah. Let's do it camera position, lighting, material, and so on. So let's create it. Let's make the first key. Let's do the transaction value 0. Let's go to 2 seconds and let's make it 100. So now you can see it starts from 0.0 and then it goes to 100, converting your white layer to the purple layer, which is behind your white layer. Now let's go to third effect, which says class wipe. So let's make our first key. So now you know how to use the transaction effects. It depends on you how you use them. Then it says grid wipe, right? Plus you can play with the borders. How do you need the borders? Tiles numbers. How do you need? Do you need in the door style, or do you need radial, or do you need rectangular? How exactly do you need it? So accordingly it can animate which direction do you need it. So you can change the direction of your thing. You can also make the key of the rotation, so that while doing the transaction it will look like it's rotating, and so on. So let's make our first key. Let's make it 0. Let's go to 2 seconds and let's make it 100. Let's again go to your rotation. Let's make a key and then go to 2 seconds and rotate our thing. So this is how it looks like when you apply rotation as well as the computation to the effects. Plus you can change your shape. So let's make the keyframe of our shape as well. Let's go to 1 second and make it radial. Let's go to 2 seconds and make it door. Now let's see. Right, so you can try what all things does it do. So now let's go to our next effect, which is your image wipe. So let's make it 0 and make our first key. Then go to 2 seconds and make it 100 and let's play it. Right, now let's go to our next step, which says jaw. What does it do? So it opens like a mouth. You can also play with the weight. You can play with the height, direction. So robo jaw, then your block, then your wave, and so on. So there are different type of sub options which are available with it. So you can play with them. You can play with the weight of the thing. You can shorten it up. It completely depends on you. How do you need the things to be? Now again, let's go to our first frame and make our first key. Then go to 0.2 and make it 100. On the first frame, let's make it 0. Also, let's play with the direction. Let's go to our next frame and let's say we need 1 rotation while the transaction is being applied. So let's play it. So it looks like this. Now let's see what happens. Yeah. Now if you want to remove our rotation, we can remove, well, we can simply click on the thing and rotate, can delete it. So this would be the so this is the transaction effect which says CC job. So this is how transaction will take place. So the duration of the transaction entirely depends on you. How much duration do you need it? Accordingly, you can make your keyframe. So next, let's go to next effect which says light white. Let's increase it and let's make it door. Let's change the color so that you can see what actually is happening when we apply light effect. Make it round. Color from source. Reverse the transaction. Let's make it 0. Create our keyframe. Go to 2. Let's make it 100. Let's see. So this is basically when we have done our transaction as reverse. Plus you can see that when we have applied it, it's creating its own light. Now when we reverse it, so let's see. So this is when we reverse the thing. So it's eliminating its light, and then the circle is coming up and doing the transaction. Likewise, you can apply different type of transaction which are available. So it's door. You can apply door effect. You can change the direction if you want to. So you can do any type of direction which you want. You can change it in by going to the direction option available in your effect. So see. Now let's go to our next effect which says line swap. So this is the effect. Now if you want to play with the direction, you can play with the direction. These are the direction options. Anywhere you can rotate, and your line transaction will start from that particular area. You can change the thickness. You can reduce the thickness if you want to. How do you need the slant? You can change the slant option. You can make it 100. You can do as you want to. You can flip the direction if you want to. So now again let's go to 0.0. Go to 2 seconds and make it 100. Now let's go to 0.0 and let's play it. Yeah. So while it's happening, it's looking to drag. So we can also play with the slant. We can make the keyframe. We can go to second option. Let's reduce somewhat. Now let's see what happens. So you can see there's some movement in your transaction. Now instead of going flat, it's coming from X point and then going to Y point. In the same way, you can, if you want, you can also play with the flip direction option, and likewise. So you can try different type of combination, different type of transaction into one layer. You are totally free. You can apply X number of transaction to a particular layer. So next comes the radial scale wipe. So radial scale wipe. So this is what it does. You can change the center and it will move accordingly. So let's play with the center and the completion. Let's create the key and let's go to second frame and let's increase the transaction. Plus let's move our anchor point, and let's shift our anchor point to 1 second, and let's go to the next frame, and let's move our anchor point to the other side, and let's see what difference does it make to our transaction. So it starts from X thing, and then it looks like it's going from X point to Y point. So this is the transaction which basically it will do. So let's click on let's select the keyframes, let's right click, and then let's do ease in ease out, and now let's see what. But I think the transaction should get finished, or the anchor point. Let's shift our anchor point. Let's shift our anchor point key, and let's see what happens. So it goes X, Y, and then it goes out. Good. Now let's apply next step, next effect, which says scale wipe. So it looks like somewhat of the same style. What does it do? Let's make it. Right. So let's go to point 0. Make our first keyframe, go to 2 seconds, and edit the value to around 100. But let's play with the center also. Let's move the center, and let's see what happens. Yes, good to go. Let's go to point 0 and play. Yeah, so this is the thing which it creates basically. See, plus if you want to add rotation to it, you can also add rotation. Let's create one rotation key, and let's do slide rotation. Let's see what it does. It's not doing anything. Good. So this is the scale wipe. Let's go to our next transaction effect, which says twister. So yeah, so it's twisting, and then it's creating the new page. So you can change your background layer, so that when it flips, it creates your layer which is at the bottom. So now when it's flipped, you can see the layer which is at the bottom is being created. Now as you can see, when it's creating, it looks like the layer is already there. So now to do that, what we will do is we will start from pink, and then it goes to blue. Let's again click on the first layer. So see, we have hidden the layer at the bottom. So always remember to hide that layer, because it will look like that the layer is already there. So you can also play with the shading. If you don't need the shading, you can off the shading in this particular effect. So this comes the pink. So it starts from the pink, and then it goes to purple. Again, let's undo it, and let's delete the twister effect. Now let's go to our next transaction effect, which says wrap-o-matic. So let's see what does it do. Let's change it. See the effect which is creating. Now let's go to transaction effect, wrapper effect. Let's go to gradient y. So let's see. Let's change it. Now let's see the gradient y is being applied to it. Let's change different type of combination and see what does it do. Yes. Now after gradient y you can see iris 5. So in iris 5 so you can see when there are different type of options associated with the iris 5. Let's create our x point and y point and let's see what does it do. You can also make the keyframe so that when it's doing the transaction it starts from x shape and then it goes to y shape. Let's click, make it 0. Let's go to 2 seconds and let's increase it. Also let's decrease it. Now we need to increase it more. Let's go to our iris anchor. Let's go to in frame, create one more key of anchor. Let's go to the outer frame and center a line. So it starts from different number of points and then it slowly goes to point 0. Or if you want, we can click the point key and then we can put it somewhat in front so that we can see how is it going. Good. Now post iris effect you can see linear wipe. So it wipes like line. You can also change the direction of that particular line, plus you can give feather if you want the smoothness to be there. So like this also you can do it. Now each and every transaction needs at least more than one key so that you can see the transaction is happening, because key is the soul of any type of animation which we do, so that it's visible to you very clearly. If you don't make keys, then nothing, no animation would be visible to you. So let's make it 0 and let's play it. Good. Now after transaction you can see radial wipe. So what does radial wipe do? So it wipes the screen like a clock. Plus you can see different type of option, whether do you need clockwise, counterclockwise or both. So if you do both, the wipe will start from x point and y point both. So let's make our first key and let's do the transaction 0. Go to 2 seconds and make it 100. Always remember to save your project and each and every moment you do. Or you can also see the different type of saving settings. You can define that how do you want to save your project after every 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. It depends on you completely. So let's see. So it's like doing the transaction on both these sides. Now in the same way, if you need the transaction only to be clockwise, you can change your setting to clockwise and then it will do the transaction clockwise, and vice versa. Plus you can change the orientation also. Where do you want your orientation to start? Good. So post radial wipe, you can see radial wipe. So it wipes like a line. You can increase and decrease the width of your lines. You can use feather, plus you can use the rotation. new lines to happen. So this is the thing. Like if you do it 100, it will do the transaction. So let's make our key. Let's go to point 0, make our first key, and then let's go to 2 seconds and make it 100. Let's go to 0. So this is the effect which is creating. Let's also play with the direction a little bit. You can see now liner wipe is doing the transaction with the rotation in it. Good. So that's it for today. Now you know what type of different type of transaction which are available in After Effects. So today we have learned again to start with we have created a composition and a layer, and then we have duplicated the layer, and then we have applied different type of transaction which are default present in After Effects. Plus we have made our starting keyframe and end keyframe to see how different type of transactions look like. That's it for today. Let's meet tomorrow at the same time. As I always say, stay home, be healthy and safe. Hashtag share your knowledge. Thank you. Let's meet tomorrow at the same time.